I really don't know why I don't make commentary videos more often, but between work and, generally having a real life outside the internet, I just haven't seen much of a point as of late. Well, until now. Hollow Knight is an amazing masterpiece of an indie game. Even though calling Team Cherry indie at this point is a bit of a stretch, since they seem to be a bit too enthusiastic about collaborating with big name studios which are openly anti-gamer. But other than Team Cherry's betrayal of its indie ethos, the franchise by itself is still a must-play and offers you a decent takeaway from the whole experience and leaves you hoping for more. But beyond the given fact that the game is deliberately dark in its themes, there have been a certain set of elements in the original Hollow Knight that have been putting a bit of an itch by my side. Save the other minor plot holes, such as why some people seem to be magically immune from the infection for no other reason other than plot armor. And how the hell was the knight able to reseal himself if he killed all the original 3 dreamers? And if Dirtmouth is supposed to be safe, you would think the place would be packed with refugees rather than a deserted ghost town. But anyways, even after looking past those nitpicks, there's one issue with a character that has left me feeling a bit uncomfortable. And that has to do with the fact bugs, such as the last Stag. If the Stag was merely a trained, non-sentient, quote-unquote animal, it would be a whole lot easier to write it off as a mere beast of burden. But the biggest mistake I think Team Cherry could have ever made was making the last Stag sentient. And you may ask why this is a problem. It's a problem in that he doesn't seem to have no other reason to be there other than the convenience of the player. We don't see him anywhere outside the Stagways. He never gets directly paid for his services, and unlike every single other OC you meet, and is all around treated like he was a vehicle. This is, by all intents and purposes, rather disturbing, especially given I'm an ENTP and we tend to look beyond the surface at certain details many people tend to overlook, so you could be right in saying I'm looking too deeply into things, but hey, this is fun. Well, to me at least. Oh, but you might say that his home is in the Segways and he just wants to help the player in his quest, but if that were true, why don't we ever see him at any time outside the Segways, relaxing in Dirtmouth, no less? It's not like the knight even needs a transport, as he can traverse Hollow Knight just fine on his own. The clues can be found in no other place other than the dialogue. A certain dialogue you have with him when you open all the Stag stations. And what he says is rather chill. Literally, I've found it, the Stagness, where I was born and raised. I've yet to go there again. My duty binds me to travel only where I am called. But if you wish to see it yourself, I could take you there. None remain to welcome us, but the nest is still a sight to behold. Give me the world, and we'll go there at once. Until I reached this point in the game, I thought he just lived in the tunnels and wanted to help me. But it turns out he holds himself to a specific duty to go only where he's specifically called. Admitted, the Stags had no real freedom of movement, and admitted he wanted to visit the nest he grew up in, but he couldn't go anywhere unless he was explicitly ordered to. And just what exactly is the definition of someone who has no freedom to do outside of what they are told and can never leave their post no matter what? Yeah, I thought so. What's even more disturbing is that slavery was canonically practiced in Hollowness, as revealed by the Hunter's journal entry on the maggots, which plainly states they were forced to do menial work for the behalf of other bugs. If slavery was widely accepted in Hollowness society, why limit it to just one species? After all, the final nail in the coffin confirming this theory comes from the Stag's dreaming dialogue. I tire so easily now, and my old legs seem to ache more and more. Still, I'm lucky to grow old at all. Still, so many others haven't. That right there, well, I admit, I might be misinterpreting it, and it could be said that all the other stags died off as a result of the infection. It took us off this implication that stags who failed to perform their duties, or just refused to do their duties, were just killed off. Could you imagine being a few minutes late to work, and because of that, your boss decided to kill you? The only possible way that could be ever legal was if they were property. And after all that being said, I'm confident in saying that the stags were, and the old stag is, a type of slave. But that only brings up another question. Why exactly does the old stag still feel tied to his duties and post when his taskmasters are long since dead? Why does he not only feel obligated, but enthusiastic about being used like a beast of burden, where there's literally nothing in it for him to stay there? Well, the answer is actually a lot more simple than you might think. Patty Hearst, the granddaughter of publisher William Randolph Hearst, was taken and held hostage by the radical leftist terrorist group known as the Symbionese Liberation Army in 1973. She was recorded actively denouncing her family, as well as the police, and under her new name, Tanya, actively worked with the Symbionese Liberation Army to rob banks in San Francisco. She publicly asserted her sympathetic feelings toward the SLA. It wasn't until a few decades later that she was pardoned by Bill Clinton, who was informed that she wasn't acting under her own free will. This phenomenon aptly became known as Stockholm Syndrome, and is distinctly characterized by a captive developing strong feelings of loyalty towards their captors. In the case of the last stag, the culprit he pledged his loyalty to obviously was the Pale King himself. This leads to fundamental tragedy inherent in the stag's life, and it will fundamentally change the way you view the character forever. In that, being a slave, he probably spent his entire life in captivity, only existing to serve the stag ways, with little to no concept of the outside world. With all that, with all he was able to see being the other passengers and other stags, it was only a given he would have seen this as not only the best way he could exist, but the only possible way he could exist. That if he failed his duty, he would be a nobody who would be killed without second thought. And it is from this we see him naturally developing a codependent relationship with his masters over time in order to help cope with the hopelessness of his situation. And over time, it completely destroyed his sense of agency. Which is why, even now, as the kingdom has long since fallen, he still feels tied to his post, still feeling completely incapable of acting independently. The concept of acting on his own never crossed his mind. His mind was left completely and utterly broken beyond all repair, still a prisoner of his own learned helplessness. Either that or Team Cherry put little thought into it or consider it unimportant, which may be true, but I just thought I'd point it out because the Grim States seem to have a similar problem.